Check. Check.
Check.
Check.
Check. Oh, I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
You go on there and see if I can mute you. It always looked like there was a way to do that, and I could never seem to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, as soon as I try to hover over it, it won't let me do it.
Will let you mute yourself?
I can remove you, but I don't want to do it.
All right. I got to go on air in 2 minutes.
Yep, you do.
Hand me the controller, the Xbox controller.
Thanks for calling. This is Coach Guerrero. Please leave your name, number, and the reason you called. I'll call you back.
Can you move the chair?
Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. To leave a callback number, press 5.
Koji, it's Sean. We cannot seem to figure out how to mute the microphone on the top-down camera the way you did yesterday. Need your help ASAP. Thank you.
Yes, buddy. It is managing the recalcitrant thing. Because that is it. So, in case you did not know, that is the official name of the morning recalcitrant thing.
I'm still partial to one stick alligator.
And you know what? That might come into play sometime there.
I haven't tried it instead of work.
What? I realize I shouldn't say what I should know.
I'm already on air. Sorry, guys. Did not realize I was already on air. Good morning. It is 10 a.m. local time. And we are opening up this morning with a really, really cool song done by Patty Cake Productions. So it's basically Imagine Dragons done with the Avengers. It's really, really cool. Check it out. If you like, type in Thunder and Avengers, and you'll find the Patty Cake things. And Raya's decided to sing along, so, you know, it's a loud good morning. Everybody else is freaking out. What? Scott, quit freaking my dog out. All right, I'm going to set it to go to the simulcast on Facebook. That's not going to work. Well, apparently it doesn't want to do this simulcast. Crap. Or it's already going and I don't know it.
Would you like to check?
Yes, please. We'll see if it's going. We have begun.
I'm trying to fight back tears, blood on my doorstep. Mass destruction, mass corruption, the souls of suffering men. Clutching on deaf ears again, rapture's coming. It's all prophecy, and if I gotta be sacrificed for the greater good, then that's what it gotta be. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder, thunder. Feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder, thunder, thunder. Feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder, thunder, thunder. Feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder.
So I'm just checking on some things online here where we're getting started. All right, so good morning. I thought that would be a really cool opening song. Currently, I'm trying to handle some technical issues. I don't know if you're already watching yet. Okay, I'm going to try again in a few minutes. Brett, if you can hear me, yes, you can play the last wave today. That'll be fine when you join us, whenever that is. I am just checking on some last minute things. This is how it's going to be, by the way, today, guys. There's no structure. Huh?
42041. Sorry, 32041.
Don't freak me out like that.
Sorry. Oh, my brain was looking at the 4.
Yeah, we're at 32K this morning, so that's fantastic. There is no structure or plan of any like major level. We've got a bunch of really cool stuff kind of lined up, but we're going very light on the structure just so that we can kind of adapt, especially when we have to, as is usually the case, adapt to technical issues. So it is being a Sunday morning or early afternoon on the on Len's side of things. I'm not sure where Len is. He was going to pop in for the beginning here, but we do not see him yet. I'm sure he'll pop in any minute now. But we are dealing with a couple of technical issues. We're going to have a second camera piped in to give you the table view. I mean, I'm going to show you. We've got Scott Crosson is here joining us. Jennifer Shinefeld and Carinn are in the kitchen back there helping manage some stuff. That is not where they belong by any stretch, but it is where they chose to be. I just want to be very clear about that so I don't get slaughtered. Anyway.
No, this is team effort.
This is totally team effort, and I totally appreciate it. Oh, bacon. I have bacon. I'm going to have bacon. Hopefully you will all get to have bacon today if bacon is your thing. Anyway, so yes, there's the table that we'll be playing on for those who show up to play locally, and I will also be logging people in to play by the Go Live. That will be more this evening. So just to let you know, yes, we are checking the numbers right here. Just as we went on, $32,041 with 447 backers and 23 hours to go. So pretty exciting stuff. Let's go ahead and go over to who's I'm seeing Philip Hindley, Derek Dunlavi, Richard Brown, Sean Beatty's in, Calvin Seymour. And it says 11 more, but it won't show me who those 11 are. So we'll.
Do we need anything else from Dollar Tree? I've got to go get some paper towels for blotting of bacon.
Okay, we're out of paper towels too. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. Did we get coffee?
They got coffee.
Okay, so then I can't think of anything else. But please take the initiative to figure out what we need because I can't right now. All right. So welcome all the people who are popping in. One of the things that is going to happen a little bit later is Jennifer Shinefeld and Cory Williamsen have decided, since Ed Doolittle unfortunately came down with strep throat, which is very, very sad face, the game that we were going to be running starting about 11 or 12 today, which was going to be our Epic Age campaign.
Do you have
he, like I said, he ended up getting strep throat. So they are going to step in, and at some point this early part of the day, we're going to have a session where they are setting up for a new campaign that Cory's been conceiving for a while. I'll let Cory explain a little bit more about that later, but it's going to be a really, really cool idea that he wants to explore. So we'll have an actual character creation session. So you guys who've been really asking about the character creation process will actually get to see players, engaged with the process of making characters. And talking about that kind of thing. We'll have Bill Keys showing up at some point the later part of the afternoon. Okay, there's Cory, and
I'm doing a check.
we're doing a check to see if it's going to do the reverb, and it's not doing reverb. Woohoo! Yay! Yay! We need to shift the cameras. Well, no, it's probably fine. I don't think I don't know if we can zoom it out, but I think it's going to be fine. So you guys get to see good. Basically, the most important part is you get to see the table and what's going on the table. And we start setting up stuff for later. Because what's going to happen later, around about 5:36, I'll start setup, and I will do a running narrative while I'm doing my setup. So those of you who are game masters who want to know how Sean does things, how I set up all the toys and set up the big spaces for doing big epic kinds of things, I'm actually going to go and get my miniatures, and you're going to hear me doing that. I'm going to just literally narrate through the process of setting up, and then about 7 o'clock-ish, we will start playing the Battlefield Denver scenario. Now, let me be very clear about Battlefield Denver. Locals are going to be here playing characters. I am going to allow a handful of people who want to play by remote to join in as well. You'll need to do the usual. You'll need a camera, you'll need a microphone, and then you'll come into this space where these other images are. And, well, I'll be running for you as well. I'm going to be doing one of my semi-big epic, oh, my God, kinds of things. It's going to be pretty much a big Donnybrook brawl, so make sure your character is ready for combat is all I'm saying there, because it's going to be your Battlefield Denver, and then at some point as we get into the wee hours, I will expand that out and let you pick a part of the world that you're going to help defend during the Mayatek-Meldanian War, and we're actually going to track that. I'm going to pull out a whiteboard and a dry erase board, and you people are going to pick where they're trying to defeat the Meldanian forces and defend that part of the world, and that's going to be kind of a cool thing that will be ongoing. It's going to be off and on, right? We'll have little segments of time where we're going to do that in between other stuff. Anyway, Bill Key's coming down. We're going to interview him about his Blood and Justice Shadows of Nocturne setting that he wants to do. Michael Serbrook will be here later this evening, and we will interview him about Well of the World and Kaze 5. So we'll have a chance to talk about that. Who knows what other surprise guests we're going to have pop in to talk about really cool stuff. And at some point I will conceive some kind of crazy goal things and stuff like that. So stay tuned, because if you're around and I come with those crazy, okay, if we reach this or we do this or you accomplish this, somebody could like win something cool, or who knows what kind of wild things are happening, because I've done this. I did this back when we did the Shine Tar Kickstarter. I've done this for Freedom Squadron, and it's always been a lot of fun. I will be loopy as all get out by this evening. At some point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to download the Kickstarter app on my phone, and I'm going to see if I can also live stream from my phone into this thing. And I'm going to show you how to make a big Irish old-fashioned, because mixology is my other hobby. And so I will actually take, if I can get this to work, I'm going to take you over to my bar, and I actually have a bar. Thank you, Carinn. Oh, she's not here. She went to go get stuff. I'll take you to my bar, and I'll show you how I make a big Irish-style old-fashioned. And then I will show you how to make a SoCo Manhattan, which is one of Jennifer's favorite drinks. So we'll have a little bartending stuff going on as well. Scott Crosson has very kindly showed up today to hang out and support us. Scott's got some ideas. He's a big pulp adventure kind of guy. So I know he and I are going to be talking about some ideas that he has for doing a pulp-style superhero thing that we will want to put into the Omniverse concept. And so we may take some time to talk about that.
I'm always ready to talk about the Age of Pulp.
I'm going to have a piece of bacon.
And then,
so those of you who are here, come into the chat. Tell me what you are having or had for breakfast, because I'm having breakfast. So let's talk breakfast. Do not be shy. I need people to chat with me. Dale, I'm good to see you. Dale, tell me what you have for breakfast, man. Or have you had breakfast yet? Because that is actually the kind of crap that we will do on this. We will have gourmet donut. Okay, explain to me what a gourmet donut is. Tell you what, Dale. Have you got your camera ready? I'm going to go ahead and bring you in. Because actually, there's something I want to talk to you about. Okay. I'll I'll go on to Facebook and Facebook hit you with the thing. Why don't you come on in? Because I actually want to talk to you about something that
Man.
I think will be cool. Okay. I'm sending Dale a link.
I'll try to strip in this angle.
I would prefer you did not do that ever at all. Or at least not until the midnight hours.
Midnight hours, I'm going to be asleep. I have a job.
Understood. So, L.W. Robbins.
I'm going to try to not do what I did for Freedom Squadron
Yeah.
and wake up every, hour and a half,
Yeah.
wander onto my computer, make some random comment, and go back to sleep.
By the way, Dale Robbins is, among other things, author and graphic designer and artist for DWR Game Studios. And he's been extraordinarily kind about supporting us via his studio. So I would like for folks to check out his Facebook page for DWR Game Studios. My friend and supporter, Dale. Studio. So right there in the window for this, you will see a link to his Facebook page for his studio. And Dale, when you get a chance to come on, I'd like for you to talk about DWR Studios. Tell us about this awesome studio that's been supporting us while I continue to munch bacon, which I hope nobody minds. It's bacon, so you really shouldn't mind.
There we go. I just upped my pledge.
And Gary Denny. Oh my God, Scott, did you just up your pledge while sitting here?
Yes, I did.
You are so freaking awesome. Thank you, Scott. Yay, Scott. So Gary Denny has been tracking the kick track stuff for this. He just posted in the Kickstarter up over 32,000, backers 447, average daily pledges $1,602. That is a fantastic average pledge.
That is a great average pledge.
Average pledge per backer $72. That's also pretty amazing. And we are currently well over our 28,000 level. And as Len's been pushing out there, we have some great stretch goals that we would really love to hit. So if we can push that in the next few hours, that would be amazing. Kickstarter just told me that we are 114% funded. You know, some people hear about certain kinds of Kickstarters. All right, no worries, Dale. We got 24 hours, my friend, so there is no hurry about when you get this in. So, Evil Beagle Games, I've done really a lot to try to make sure you guys know about us and know that we exist. However, you know, we're not WotC, we're not Paizo. Our goal is to be in the same kind of space that a Green Ronin is, you know, or Black Hat and those guys. So, or Evil Hat, I mean. And we're getting there. And we have an amazing team, and we're building to that. But what I'm getting at is, for all of it, sometimes you'll see these Kickstarters for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. For a small company like ours, which, I mean, literally, this is my studio, is my living room / the Silver Unicorn Pub. If you look at the other, and there's Dale coming in now. If you look at the other camera, this is what we call the Silver Unicorn Pub. And it is, a game place with toys and everything else. There's Scott right there. We're small operation. So us hitting our goal like that, hitting a $28,000 goal, and then pushing that much further, we're doing really well. And I feel really proud about that. Good morning, Gail.
Good morning.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
Listen, dude, I have been watching this DWR Studios pushing and supporting us from the very, very beginning. And then I realized, you had come in and started playing games with us. So I would like very much for you to tell me about DWR Game Studios. Give us an overview.
Oh, it's basically just me using my own label to publish my own superhero setting, much like you guys are doing with the various settings with the Omniverse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply putting my own setting out there for people to enjoy, or at least trying to.
So are you planning on going system neutral on that, or are you actually interested in embedding a rule set?
Well, right now I've been pretty much exclusively hero system, but I actually own the rights to Mariquai Falls, and simply have a license with Jason Walters to use the hero system. So yeah, I'm thinking about expanding out into other systems.
Well, I would very much love to see you do a P&P version. I mean, as you well know, we got some amazing testimonials from the Hero Games guys. So I want to tell the story about that, but I'll tell the full story later about when we went out to Northern California to run for these guys. But Bruce Harlick, who was the editor, writer, and designer for Champions, and also done a whole bunch of electronic. P&P is an elegant superheroic system that is loose enough to let people play larger-than-life heroes, while still providing enough crunch during conflict resolution to be totally satisfying. That was part of what he said. Steve Peterson, if you like a game that's fast-moving, gives you the feel of your favorite comic book heroes, P&P delivers. Ray Greer, one of the things he said, the highest compliment I can pay is that if we were designing Champions today, there are several ideas I'd like to steal wholesale. They love this game, and a lot of Champions fans have been really coming on board. Ross Watson, that's how I met him, because he was a fan of my work for Champions, and now he is this is his absolute favorite system. Michael Serbrook, everybody, you know the name Michael Serbrook. Oh yeah. So I would be honored, Dale, to start the conversation about doing an official, a license kind of situation. If you want to go ahead and do a P&P version of this, this would be fantastic, because we want as much support for this as possible. So why don't you give us the elevator pitch on your setting, and then we'll talk about that some.
Well, Mariquai Falls is meant to be a setting neutral city, set in the Midwestern United States, where spirits are one of the main sources for superpowers. Whether they're indigenous North American spirits, or spirits that have somehow migrated to North America along with colonial efforts and whatnot. These spirits have been imparting their knowledge and their abilities onto mortals as sort of like champions, if you will. And and of course, comic book characters being as they are, they've segregated themselves out into heroes and villains and what have you. And the villains want to find and utilize an artifact known as the Heart of the Grandmother Spider to become gods, and the heroes are trying to stop them from doing that.
This is sounding really fantastic.
Thank you.
So, like I said, we just got joined by the other person with whom you'd want to have this conversation. Mr. Len Pimentel, everyone, has joined us. Good to see you, Len.
Hello.
We got started with bacon and coffee and interviewing Dale about DWR Studios, which they have been a fantastic supporter of our Kickstarter. They have been just pushing and pushing and pushing. And then Dale's come on, and then he played in the 1 hour demo yesterday, which was fantastic. I had time with that.
Yeah.
He actually he's the first one to play his own character in a 1 hour demo.
I was incredibly surprised you let me do that too, because I was using an old rule set whenever I created that character.
It's not the end of the world.
You could literally bring an original Prowlers and Paragons character to a P&PUE table, and it would take very little effort to make that character rock and roll anyway, because the core rule sets are, the resolution system is slightly different, but 10 dice is 10 dice is 10 dice. So, that's going to work out just fine. As I was just telling Dale before you came on, Len, we want content. We are absolutely wanting to throw the door wide open. Now, we're going to use a very similar system to how Pinnacle did things, which is it's not going to be absolutely open, like, with monitoring. What will happen is we will, have a relationship where, we will see what kind of work you're doing. We'll have a certain understanding that you're not doing, pimp slap the role-playing game.
Certain things we just don't want associated with the product. So
exactly.
But as long as, and again, I'm going to be super clear here. We're not trying to impose our views or perspectives on anyone else, but there's just certain good taste thresholds that we need to,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Pinnacle had a lot of success working with third parties, and still does. A lot of success working with third parties. And again, we're not interested in charging you money. We really aren't. We're just interested in having content out there that supports our core rules. Now, you're going to use the standard rule of please don't reprint all our rules. Right? Make it compatible with the core book, so people need the core book to play.
Exactly.
If you have some setting rules and stuff like that you want to do, that's going to be fine, no problem at all. Like in this world, because for example, the Origins rules, which I'm going to have a discussion about Origins rules for Modern Gods. Len's been watching me struggle with this for a while. I finally came up with rules at work. I'm very, very excited about them. So the new Modern Gods Origins rules, but that's like a nice little layer on top, but it still needs people to have the rule set. So any publishers doing their own thing like that, that'll be a thing. We're also going to open up community content, so that players will have just like you see your swag, and then there's a Paizo creator community content section on drive-through. We're going to use the same process with the drive-through people, so players and GMs can create their own things, throw them up there, and share them. And if they want to do a pay what you want or whatever, that's fine too. Now there's a way that there's like a little bit of revenue feed that comes back to Evil Beagle on that. Right. We got to work out the details on that, but that way everybody gets to share in the creative process. So one of the things people talk about is superhero games that don't have enough support. We are not going to let that happen. We are going all in on massive amounts of support. I know Len and I both agree on that point.
Yep.
How are you doing this morning, Cubano?
I am doing lovely. Thank you so much. How are you?
I have bacon.
Nice. Nice.
Jennifer made me bacon.
I'm going to have my smoothie shortly. I haven't had it yet. So remember, it's a little bit later for me, though. But I was up late trying to get some stuff together and get some stuff ready. And then it took me a little bit to get on this morning because I was busy sending out some Facebook blasts and busy sending out. We've checked the Kickstarter link itself. You may want to go there. You may want to go look at our stretch goals. I was having a conversation with somebody you might know. So there's an official 45K stretch goal there. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, like bothering with a 45K stretch goal right now, but I'm still of the opinion that, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and maybe 6 degrees of Will Wheaton, if somebody catches this, one day can make all the difference. So, if I only had that podcast, but I don't. So, but the fact of the matter is, one person who is someone who is an influencer who catches on to this. So we've got somewhere in the area of 450 backers right now. If any of those backers is keyed into someone who, would be interested and would be willing and would be open to, put in a good word or say a nice thing, that would be fantastic. So, and I want to, again, as I'm going to be doing all the time while I'm here today, thank everyone who already has. I want to thank everyone who has put in a good word, who has sent out messages, who has sent out emails, including some folks in the industry who've been kind enough to, support little guys in this. So, as Sean says all the time, we're not Wizards of the Coast, we're not Paizo, we're not Pinnacle, we're not Green Ronin, any of those folks. We're a very, very little company, and it's going to happen based on all your help. So for everyone who's helped in any way, shape, or form, thank you so much. And I want to be super clear that means even if you weren't able to back, not everyone is in a situation where you can back right now. We get that completely.
Exactly.
We need the backing to produce the thing, but the fact of the matter is just the support and enthusiasm matters a whole lot more than you could possibly imagine, especially for those of us who are doing this on top of a full-time job with very active family with young kids. So your enthusiasm and motivation helps tremendously. So thank you so much.
The love, man. It is absolutely about the love. I have professionally been designing games and writing for game material since 1988, so well over 30 years now. And of course, I'm gonna get the usual stuff from the crew here when I say I was probably the first dungeon master in Cobb County, Georgia, back in 1977. If Carinn were here, she would say, what would she say? She would say that because that's
what is happening here.
I was one would be what Carinn would say. Carinn's taken off to go pick up a couple of things you need. But
would it be bad if I just said that I bought your hero books while I was in high school?
Thank you for continuing to reinforce how old I am.
That was awesome.
That was in fact awesome, and you are bad for saying that, but you know, there we go.
I remember being it.
Sean, I'm sorry, real quick. Sean, I've heard this and I'm not sure if it's true. I was wondering if you can back me up on this. I hate to categorize people sort of just in general, okay? But it's my understanding that generally, if you didn't really keep your eyes on them, Neanderthal man used to cheat on dice rolls a lot. Is that actually true?
You know, they were kind of jerks because, I mean, after all, we were using our teeth. You know, they've fallen out as dice, but we still want to hold on to them. And they would like grab the ones that rolled well and steal them, and then they would like chisel extra divots in them. Those guys were bastards, man. They just were. You know, we were still figuring out this new thing we called dirt back then. You know, so we were a little confused.
So here's a real test. Did you have the Dungeons and Dragons edition with the chits?
Oh God, yes. So
they had
I had to go to because when I first read, so the story really, the story about this, I'll go ahead and say, is that I was that kid who teachers did not know what to do with in middle school, so they sent me to the library on a frequent basis to just go do independent study, which is to say you're way ahead of everybody else in this class, and we don't know what to do with you, so please just go entertain yourself. And I would go and I'd do whatever. And I found this, I found Games Magazine, which, by the way, I was very interested to know that here's a middle school library that has Games Magazine. But if you look inside the masthead, it's published by the guy who published Penthouse. So I was like, oh my God, Penthouse publishes this magazine. But it was all about games.
Magazines are magazines.
Right, exactly. I found that very, you know, I was in 7th grade or 6th grade or whatever. It was easily amusing. But so this guy had played Dungeons and Dragons with some folks and written an article about it. And he created this sense of magic in the experience of that. And I just head over heels. I went, oh my God. But no one I knew anything about it. So I literally had to go to Spencer's Gifts at the mall, at Columbus Mall, which my mom was kind of weirded out because we literally had to walk past the sex toys to get to the section where the D&D box set was. And I was the level of the print run where they didn't have the dice, like those dice that turned into like little weird molds that just rolled like spheres after a while because it would wear down. They didn't even have those. So yes, I had to cut out the chits, and because my dad had one of the old style cameras, I took different film canister holders, and I would take like the D4 chits and put them in one, and the 1 through 6. Well, actually, I didn't have to do 1 through 6 because we had cubes, because I did have a Risk and a couple other games, but like for the D8 and the D20 and all that, and literally just you have to shake the canister and then pull a chit out as your die roll. Yes. I had that. I was running Keep on the Borderlands because that was the module that was in my box set. And I ended up building an entire world around that Keep, which was what became Shinetar, which, of course, was the first Kickstarter I did.
We all did. My friends and I, if you put down pieces of graph paper, that world map was in the middle. And we mapped out the entire, God, it had to be a continent around it. And you know what? I think that maybe from the very beginning, my feeling about designing in the RPG space and about how utterly critical negative space is to designing in the RPG space. Tell people about one thing, suggest a lot of other things, but don't hyper concretize it or whatever. I wonder if it's not from B2 where that came from. Because to me, the most interesting part of all of B2 is that little pathway that says to the caverns of darkness or whatever it says. The thing that just goes off and you're like, what's that? Where did that go? What's in there?
And for me, it was the personalities and people who occupied the Keep. I was more interested in my players interacting with the people who, the business owners and the political people, all the people in the Keep. Going off to kill the monsters and then deal with the priests or whatever was an interesting part of the adventure. And of course, it was the action which was necessary. But it's the interacting with people that I was interested in. So what was interesting is as other people started to discover Dungeons and Dragons, they were all about the move the next 10 feet, knock on the door, check for traps, blah, 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 blah.
For sure.
They didn't know what to do with me. They're like, what are you doing? I was like, we have to talk to people? Like, it's role playing, yes. That's why it's called this.
You were way more advanced. I wanted to get into those caves, clean the whole thing out, turn it into a base of operations for us. Don't get me wrong, it took me a good 20 years to understand that the caves were sort of like on levels. Like I didn't get that, those little elevation lines. I had no idea what any of that was. I knew there were holes that led to monster tubes with treasure. But the fact that it was sort of elevations or whatever, not a clue. Not a clue. I didn't understand what they were trying to tell me.
Real quick, I want to talk to Dale, and I actually want to talk to Scott here too about their early gaming experiences. But David Parker is on, and so I want to remind everybody we have a Q&A section, and you can use that so that you can make sure because it'll blink at us to let us know that you actually have asked a question. So it'll stick out from the chat. So please use the Q&A section if you actually have questions that you need us to specifically address online. But Dave Parker was saying, how much resolve can you have? There's no stated limit. Right? If for some reason the GM is willing to hand out and give you 12 or whatever, there's no limit. If you are willing to play a 6-die character in a 14-die trait cap game,
don't do it.
Don't do it. But you would get that resolve. You would get
do it if you have preparation, because then you can just give consternation all day long to shine.
That's Cory, who's enjoying being off camera again. He did this yesterday as well.
Actually, it's preparation, leadership,
and buff,
and then you just sit there and you just tell everybody else here's all and luck.
Yeah.
So
now, if you were a luck manipulator, I was still into a 6-die character, but you could totally do a very low trait cap character as a support character if that's your style.
Yeah.
And with all that resolve, do amazing stuff with that. Yeah. Donovan Santini, who you've seen come and go, he's helping out with getting stuff printed and anything like that. Donovan plays a character who is a multiform who turns into Slag, which is this oh my god electrified giant rock thing. But he almost never plays that one. He almost always plays the Mr. Vincetti alter ego, who is exactly that character. He comes in, he's throwing all his resolve around because he has crap tons of resolve. Now, I will give him credit. I will give him credit because the multiform approach is the trick there, right? Spends all his resolve as Mr. Vincetti through a good chunk of the fight, and then when he runs out of resolve, he flips over to Slag, so he has the power thing to end the fight with. But it's a great trick, and it's actually very, very cool because for most of the game, he's playing the lower powered guy who isn't going to necessarily take down any major bad guys, but he's supporting the rest of the team with these really great ideas.
But he's also the role-playing aspect of the character as well.
Yes.
Since most of the role-playing happens before the fight. Since Slag is the Hulk, big splash. Not exactly the most eloquent character.
No.
So that allows me to actually have a role-playing character with role-playing aspects. Then when it comes, you have a 120-foot god emperor of Japan. This might need a bigger weapon.
So that's been Donovan has definitely put this game through its paces on about every level you can imagine.
Awesome.
So dear game designers, Donovan is one of those people you want on your playtest group list. So just letting you know, Cory's another one, by the way. And again, he's very conveniently sitting out of the. There he is.
There he is.
I know Len specifically can speak to the consternations. The support of Cory Williamsen and his questions during the design process. It's all been incredible.
You need to have that. You need to have somebody who's going to try to tear it down at the edges and see, even to the point of, and this is the interesting part. There's times where you go, I'm okay with that edge case. There's times when to cover a really obscure edge case kind of thing, what you would need to do is add a layer of complexity that you're just not willing to do. And the fact of the matter is sometimes you want someone, not because you're like, oh, I've got to add this 3 other systems to cover this one and, because you're like, I'm okay with this. Or I'm just going to put a line here about, time travel. GMs, think about whether or not you want to put this in your game. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. By the way, one thing about resolve, since we had touched on it, excuse me, and it came up in the last demo that was done live. There is a rule in the game about the fact that if your starting resolve for any issue, for any game session, is basically the greater of your normal starting resolve or the amount you had at the end of last session. Now, in the actual rules, it's pretty clear about this, that it's not recommended that you do that often. In other words, once in a blue moon, if somebody has more resolve than they start with, well, yeah, by all means. If they did some great role-playing at the end of the session or whatever the case, sure. But if there is a player, or if there are players who are more than occasionally winding up with more resolve than they have at start, that player is not spending enough resolve. And you should actually encourage their expenditure of resolve by saying, nope, doesn't matter what you have, you start over. Because I personally am not a fan of the players who literally just, not a fan of, that's incorrect. I'm a fan of everybody, almost. But I'm not a fan of the approach of just hoarding resolve for the final villain and then dumping it all. And the reason I'm not, very specifically, is the fiction doesn't support that. The fiction doesn't really support that. So you want to encourage the use of resolve. And I know that I've spoken to a lot of people about resolve type of mechanics, bennies, luck points, fate points, etc. And a number of people I've spoken to have told me that they dislike the systems not because it's unrealistic, and not because there are some people who don't like it because they feel it takes you out of immersion. And I get that. We can debate that point. That's for another time. But there are some folks who don't like the system because they never know when to spend. They've got that sort of mentality of, I need to hold on to it because I might need it later. It's true. It is true that sometimes you might need it later. But in order to kind of counteract that, originally, you didn't get any overlap. It carried over. And Sean very wisely talked to me about the occasional situation where somebody does really good role-playing, really amazing stuff at the end, and you want to award that. But if it's happening consistently, I don't want to say the player is playing wrong. That's incorrect. But I do want to say the player may be holding on to resolve more than the game is kind of designed for. And in order to lubricate the wheels and get them having more of the fun of spending it without fear, don't give them that overlap if it keeps happening.
I would counter Len, and because I am one of those players, because I have terrible dice rolls.
You're totally that guy.
And I hate getting into the big bad situation of yay, I'm supposed to be the superhero, but my dice rolls completely screw me, and now I'm not the superhero. And specifically, what also tends to happen is the concept of, and I totally get what you're saying, like it doesn't fit the narrative for you just to save everything and dump it. Because yesterday, Sean very, very aptly pointed out how we all started out with way more resolve, but 5 of the 6 players or 7 players at the table were tapped by the end of it. So
Sean is evil. I can't help that.
But my point is this: is that you can't make a universal rule, which is why it's good that you left it fuzzy.
Yeah.
Because at my table, every single time if they end this session with more resolve than they start with, they get to keep it, and that's because they earned it. They're not hoarding them; they're earning them.
Right, and that was the secondary point of. I also run into a lot of GMs that don't hand them out.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I set situations up so that they're spending. Again, it's hard. I'm sorry, I keep holding this. It's hard to have a universal rule. So I think the social alchemy of every game table has to be accounted for. At my tables, the players are encouraged to spend, and they will. They will spend the hell out of their resolve, but then they will look for reasons to get more resolve. And I love handing resolve out for good play, for stuff that makes everybody else at the table happy and enjoying it. And then there are those days I want to have the no combat or low combat challenge days.
Absolutely.
It is about the role play and it is about the story, and they're earning that resolve. The resolve is meaningless if they earn it and then don't have anything to use it on, because it all goes away at the end of the
As
session.
long
So
as they are spending
you
it.
want to
As
keep
long as
that
they are
resolve.
spending it, yeah.
You know, and you know, so again, I think, and again, I haven't read the absolute latest version of how you've written that, but if I'm grokking correctly, it really does come down to which way the GM feels comfortable with, and it needs to be that way because again, the social alchemy of every table is going to be different.
Well, keep in mind also, it's an RPG. The expectation is the second it hits your table, you're going to hack it, whether it's a lot or a little. That's the nature of the game. Anyone who thinks that their RPG is pristine and is played precisely as written, or for that matter, even if it's played as written, is interpreted precisely as intended, is out of their minds. Completely. It's not reality. So,
So yeah, the carry resolve, it does say default. The resolve doesn't carry between set issues. When an issue comes to an end, any unspent resolve is wasted because you begin the next issue based resolve. This is encouraged to encourage players to spend resolve rather than hoard it. However, GMs can occasionally allow extra resolve to carry over between issues. For example, here with 3 resolve, some hands with 5, Yeah. So he says do that sparingly. Co-designer Sean Patrick Fannon here for everyone to hear says ignore that rule. Let them carry the resolve over if you care about the alternate rule and the evil deviant that is Sean. Now we got
way more conservatively than Joe Thomas.
David Parker, who again, David, I'm reminding you, please use the Q&A section for your questions, my friend. Is there a way for the GM to get more adversity? Well, adversity is locked into the challenge rating of a particular scenario or scene. We fiddled with, and I'm going to let Len speak on this a little bit more, but we fiddled with mechanics on GMs actually earning adversity, you know, but it felt clunky and it felt kind of cheaty as well. Because I don't know, I was glad we didn't do it, but Len, I'd like you to talk more about that.
So originally the idea was that aside from the starting adversity, you would gain additional adversity when powerful villains popped onto the scene. So if a major villain popped onto the scene, all right, so just for those listening at home, which I guess is everybody, the sort of default rule basically is that the GM starts off with 1 point of adversity for every player. And then the idea on top of that, you occasionally gain adversity if the heroes do something really awful or unheroic, but that's kind of an exception. It doesn't happen very often. So if the original rule I was working with was that if a particularly powerful villain shows up on the scene, you gain extra adversity per player, depending on how powerful that villain is supposed to be. And there was a clunkiness to it, like what happens if there's an arch villain and also a powerful but not arch villain? Do you get more? How do you figure the math of that equation? And Sean very aptly suggested, you know what, this is all irrelevant. What matters is this is a tough scene. So why not do it by scene instead of by who shows up in that scene or what specifically is happening? If it's just, this is a oh my god scene, the GM gains more adversity. So certain scenes, all right, so let's get technical for a second. Every scene has a challenge level or a threat level, whatever it's called. I don't even remember now as I don't have it in front of me, but whatever. Let's call it a challenge level. Every scene has a challenge level. And that, whether it runs from like 0 to 3 or maybe even, God forbid, more. And the long and short is at the beginning of that scene, the GM gains a number of extra adversity equal to the number of players times the challenge level. All right, most scenes have 0, so the GM gains no extra adversity at the beginning of every scene. But if it's a tough scene with a challenge level of 1, let's say, and by the way, it might not be called challenge level. Like I said, I don't have it in front of me right now. Let's just for kicks call it challenge level. At the beginning of a scene with a challenge level 1, the GM gets 1 extra adversity per player. If it's a scene with a challenge level 2, the GM gets 2 extra adversity per player, etc. So at the beginning of any scene that's supposed to be particularly tough, whether that's because there's a major villain that's showing up on the scene. You may even want to do that if it's at the beginning of a scene. It's kind of a low point for the heroes in the adventure. Let's say, for example, that, I don't know, let's say in one scene, somebody just snapped their fingers and killed off half of everybody. As an awful human being, I would probably begin the next scene as a high challenge level, even if it's just an RP scene, to give an idea of how bad things have just gotten, by having the players visually, and what happens at the table matters, having the players visually see me grab a handful of adversity and say, this is what it's like for you right now. So that's how the GM gains additional adversity, basically scene challenge levels. Okay, so at the start of any, you can't gain it in the middle of a scene, but start of any scene, if the challenge level is supposed to be higher than average, you gain extra adversity.
We have a question that's been posted in the QA, so popping that up on the screen. This is King Zombie, who's also known as Sean Beatty. Question about the luck power. You buy a certain number of luck dice and can use those to add to rolls. Can you only use them once or up to the total of the number of dice in the power? Meaning if I have 60 luck, I can use 2d 3 times or all at once, and then it would be used up? Or can you use the power over and over like Domino or in Deadpool 2? Len?
You use it up per game session. You use it up per issue.
So yeah, otherwise, if you could use it per scene, it would get gross.
Yeah.
There are other ways, however, to simulate Domino. Right, luck is absolutely one of them, and she would have the control ability, and she'd also have the I think it's called absurd or whatever.
Does she have control? Control means you could order to inflict. You use it.
You're right. It is. Yeah.
I think she would just have the absurd luck where, at least from the movie, Domino from the comics, I didn't think was that lucky, but from the movie, man, that lady owned that role. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I would also give her precognition and define it as she just has the ability to kind of get a do-over whenever things go bad because it just didn't go bad because of her luck.
Absolutely.
No, danger sense, absolutely, beyond question. There's a number of ways to simulate a character that is that absurdly lucky on top of just using the luck power. And if you wanted to say that her luck sort of spilled out and other people were kind of lucky around her, again, this is at this point we're not talking about necessarily recreating Domino, but a luck-oriented character who was much more about making reality work for herself and for others. She then would have the control power. She would then have buff, which is a really cool one. She probably have the leadership power defined as she just influences people in a lucky way to give them rerolls. There's any number of.
I was about to suggest leadership.
Yeah, leadership is a great example of a character being a leader, but it also can simulate other really cool things. All it comes down to is because I'm here, you get a reroll in the scene. So there's all kinds of ways you can employ that.
If you're insane and you're using P&PUE to play some kind of medieval fantasy, you can use leadership as a cleric's buff power, as a cleric's bless power.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My minions are so afraid of me. They do not fail.
So intimidation is of luck, but you will re-roll because I told you to. So we kind of got off tangent. I was going to ask everybody else who was present about their early days of gaming, how they got started with all of this. Dale, tell us about your early days of gaming.
Well, I got introduced to D&D, the same BECMI set that you guys were talking about earlier. I got introduced to that in my 7th grade. It helped pull me out of my ADHD. I was having trouble differentiating between fantasy and reality until I started playing D&D and could actually get my fantasies put down on paper and thereby separate it out from reality. And so, and I've just been growing ever since then. Got into Hero System in '92. After that, and then it's just been snowballing from there.
So Scott, what was your
my first my first D&D module that I ran was X1 Isle of Dread.
Oh god.
So I went into this thinking that it was all this kind of cool adventuring out in the wilderness and all stuff, which meant that after that I kept running into dungeons. right after I got the red and the blue box at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
My parents made me get rid of them because D&D was evil. So I ended up
Satanic Panic.
The next weekend, quite literally.
Thank you,
I ended
Geraldo.
up- Yeah, I ended up with a hotel at a gaming convention there, bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangies, and Call of Cthulhu, which my parents were okay with. And then the Indiana Jones role-playing game. So I ended up playing different things. This is why I'm probably so into pulp, is because my parents wouldn't let me play Dungeons and Dragons. So I went to those other games. In fact, my first superhero game I played was Heroes Unlimited, and I ended up buying Champions books and converting the characters over to Heroes Unlimited. That's why I bought his books before I bought the Champions books.
Hey, Carinn.
Yeah.
Come on in. Tell us about your early gaming.
Because that was so long ago.
Well, I mean, everybody has a different story. I'm curious about yours. By the way, Carinn Seabolt, everyone, is our editor-in-chief at Evil Beagle Games.
Hey, Carinn.
Hello. I didn't get to start gaming until I was a 30-year-old widow. Now, when I was 16, I had opportunity and access to books, but not people and transportation. So I wrote up literally dozens of GURPS characters, Hush Sean. I said Hush Sean. But never had the chance to play them. Skip ahead 14 years. My first actual rolling dice with other humans was a D&D 3.5 canned adventure. Gnome Sorceress.
Oh, I remember the story.
And I learned a very interesting lesson. When you are told it's okay, go ahead and cast Burning Hands, I can make my dex check. It's fine if they're all standing up, but if they have, I don't know, fallen on top of the thing that you're casting against and are prone, it works less well.
Oops.
Yeah, the spell worked just fine.
And we had somehow gone at this particular scenario in reverse, because our lovely halfling thief, rogue, had scaled the side of the tower, and we took the top level first and worked our way down.
So did Conan. That worked.
Yeah.
And strangely, the harder stuff was easier than the easy stuff.
But there was also apparently a crotch set on fire in one of the.
That
Oops.
aforementioned second
Like
burning hand was cast from between the legs of the dwarf.
Like you do.
Yeah.
He made his save versus toasted nuts.
Would that be roast nuts?
Which one of us hasn't poured alcohol on our jeans and set them on fire in the middle of a karaoke number?
I haven't.
Just me?
Really?
No.
No,
No,
that's just you.
What's this karaoke of which you speak?
No?
That's just you, Len.
Maybe oversharing.
Jennifer.
Okay.
Tell us your early gaming experiences.
My very first gaming experience was at the birthday party of Nicholas Nold and a company of my great neighbors when they decided that they were going to finally drag me into this nerd thing that I had railed so much against.
She called us nerds.
Not wrong.
Not wrong.
And I said, fine, make a thing, do it. I don't, whatever, fine. It's your birthday, fine, whatever. And so one of them looked to the other and said, well, we could sort of make her a Kender. It'll be funny.
Oh, God.
And the other ones, that was the reaction of the other one.
Scott is currently having a seizure, everyone. Don't call 911. This happens frequently. It's okay. Just move his tongue out of his throat.
So that was my first interaction with live action role playing games.
I'm sorry, I blacked out. What did you play?
Strictly speaking, it was before anything Dragonlance even came out, so it was a modified halfling. But even then, the only way that I would relent to playing was under the condition of I don't want to have to deal with that much math. I'm a theater nerd. I want to be able to have extemporaneous role-playing experience. Storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell a story.
Lots of meth at the theater does kind of mess things up.
So, but here you are now doing development on an adventure for me and doing editing for us and
running games.
Darn it, game now. She's running Len's other major design he did and we released recently called Six Gun Fury, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Len, I'm sorry.
Len,
I'm sorry.
She is awesome.
She is awesome. We're having a really good time with it.
Why would you be sorry? That makes me very happy.
So, Cory, it is your turn to tell us of your gaming history.
I started with the Choose Your Own Adventure books back in like 4th and 5th grade. That quickly moved into the concepts of role playing when I had Magic the Gathering artist as my 6th grade teacher or art teacher, and he would like basically do these plastic molds of like dragon heads and dwarf helmets and stuff like that, and I was like completely fascinated by that, which then completely made me want to delve into other things, and that turned into my first role-playing game of also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness.
That one was a part of a lot of people's early days.
And which very quickly also transformed into Heroes Unlimited. And again, also my parents were like, well, we understand that you want to play D&D, but we don't think you can quite handle the concepts of death in the afterlife just yet, so let's shy away from that. And my mom, to her credit, did her research and basically said, no, I don't think this is for you yet. Let's do some other things. So she didn't say role-playing out, but she did say D&D specifically. That, of course, did not stop me. But, Heroes Unlimited was my first big one, and I spent hours creating characters for that thing. Just like, Carinn did, with GURPS, I did with Heroes Unlimited.
I did the same thing.
And my mom even went out and said, here's a ream of paper that I went and printed character sheets on for. I was like,
that was actually awesome.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, great. So I used all of it. So I'm actually very excited about this product and this particular line of things that we're doing now, because this harkens back to those days of sitting there being able to conceptualize all the different heroes, all the different things we could do with those heroes, and be able to role play that out now.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Len, that brings up that we really do have to go ahead and get basically another Ugly Duckling version put together as soon as possible, I think, because people are screaming for the ability to make characters right now. They're so excited. They're going and finding iterations. They really want to delve into that, and they're going to come find your house, find my house, and they're going to start throwing things at us if we don't give them something to start.
I'll make them Cuban coffee. That'll be good. Some cafecito. We'll sit around. We'll talk about. We'll make them cafecito. We'll sit around. We'll talk about it. That'll be some croqueta. We'll be good.
Right. No problem at all. But seriously though, folks have been asking about that, and I know Len and I already have a plan for that. So yes, as soon as this thing wraps up,
hours you'll be seeing something.
We're gonna get it where people can go ahead and start playing with and making characters. So no worries there. We have a question from Richard Brown. I want to post that up. I noticed in the game Sean ran last night, the heroes had lots of extra resolve. and add a several dice to an attack on the first page that seems capable of ending an issue on the first page, with limiting the user resolve by the page for adding dice be appropriate. I say no, but it is your table, and if you want a grittier, harsher feel, you can do that. But I am a big fan of the player empowerment aspect of this game. So if they want to throw everything they have, they can go ahead. But you also got to realize that as a GM, it's your job to, be ready to roll with such punches. First off, you have your stack of adversity. You can spend your adversity to oppose that to some degree. Second, dice sometimes just don't go no matter how many points you throw at it. Third, okay, fine. You just took out that major threat. He was the herald of this guy. And now you guys have spent all your resolve. There are so many ways to narratively do that without having to use an artificial governor that restricts their creativity and their strategizing. If their strategy is like throw everything we have at this, whatever it takes, that's a great heroic moment for them. It could be that, sure, yeah, they took out the main villain that I was planning for on the first page of that battle. Guess what? Now we'll deal with the aftermath. What happens when you curb stomp the guy that you thought was going to be a major threat? Now it's the follow-on, it's all the other stuff. There's just so many, in my opinion, preferable ways to handle that narratively as opposed to an artificial governing.
And it's absolutely true, because the fact that if Sean had decided that he was gonna, we had the extra time and we had the extra ability to go longer, he could have pressed the issue with all of our heroes, because all of us were tapped at that point.
Yes,
there was 6 or 7 players at the table, and I think only one of us by the end of that had any resolve left.
Yeah,
exactly. Crimson Claw was really cleaning us until Sean stepped in like he did.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I mean, you just never know how things are going to go, in that regard. But I wouldn't. Len, what's your thoughts on Richard's question?
I wouldn't either. I agree. If the heroes have so much resolve that they can really destroy, it takes a lot of resolve to really completely destroy something. And I have friends who, with absolutely no resolve, can roll 18 successes on 12 dice. I don't even want to talk about it.
Holy crap. I just wrote Steve Peterson is in there. Oh,
yep.
But Steve,
hello.
If you're still watching, I'm going to send you a link so that you can co-host in so we can actually get you on camera. So awesome. Stand by. Steve Peterson, one of the creators of Champions, folks.
Yeah. Fantastic. So anyway, I wouldn't put the limit either. If you wanted to, you could say that the maximum amount of resolve that you can spend on any roll equals the trait for that roll. Borrowing off the old DC Mayfair kind of, I think there was something like that in DC Mayfair. I think, don't quote me on that, but in my broken brain, I'm remembering something along those lines in the DC Mayfair game. So
I used to play that for a long time.
So I don't know. Well, I don't know if I'm correct, but I seem to remember something about the maximum amount of hero points you can spend on a roll equals your ability in that. The ability, the attack value, or the effect value, whatever. So long and short, if you want to limit it, you could say that the maximum amount of resolve you can spend on a roll equals the trait that you have. Probably wouldn't. Let them spend all their resolve, because once they spend all their resolve, here's what's magical: they have no more resolve.
Yeah, it's true.
As a player view, it's okay to fail at a roll. It's okay to let go and let the story continue. You don't have to succeed at everything you are doing in these games. It's okay to miss. It's okay to, the fist hitting the nose and the other guy not flinching. It's a great cinematic moment.
It's okay not to aim for the head.
It's okay not to aim the head, but it's always a good idea anyway.
So let me volunteer a little design secret based off what we just heard behind originally Magnum Fury and then Six Gun Fury. Different game, but just to give you a concept about it's okay to fail. For those of you who've seen the game or who played the game, the Fury line of games uses something called grit as a combination of hero points and hit points. So you can spend your hit points, basically. You don't have that many of them. you have 9, maybe 6 if it's a grittier game, maybe 9 to 10 if it's a super action adventure game. But you have this pool of your hit points that you can spend to do what you do with resolve. Reroll, add dice, to your roll to try to do better, get a lucky break, same kind of thing. This design kind of came about because I have a buddy of mine who sometimes just does not want to fail. Like, they just doesn't want to fail. He has trouble with the concept of, like, it's okay for your character to fail. Even though heroes often fall down, again, part of what makes them heroes is not that they don't fall down. In fact, that doesn't make them heroes. What makes them heroes is the fact that they get back up after falling down. What makes Superman awesome is the fact that even after he's always stripped from being so high, he will continue the fight regardless. That's not the only thing that makes Superman awesome, but that's neither here nor there. In any case, and the first game we played of this system, my buddy was like, all right, I'm going to roll again. And he failed the roll. He's like, I'm going to roll again. And he failed the roll. And I'm just kind of watching him as his hit points are going tick, tick, tick.
There's Steve.
Hey, Steve
How are you,
Peterson. Steve Peterson is joining us here.
Hello.
By way of introduction, Steve Peterson is the co-designer and creator of the original Champions and Hero System role-playing games, as well as a very dear friend. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Which one's Steve?
Down on the bottom.
Okay.
Can
Steve?
you hear us? And he may have to remember to tell him to turn on his microphone.
Yeah, Steve, you may have to hit the go live. Oh, he's going to try again.
Got it.
You can see on that one over there, too.
Okay.
But hopefully he'll join us. But anyway, yes, the grit is hit points thing. Yeah, I've watched people.
And so the point of that game almost is to teach you it's okay to fail. Like, one of the secret design elements of that game is to teach players it's okay to fail. You can fail, because if you don't let yourself fail occasionally, you're going to go down.
Cory's trying to pop in here.
Oh. And there's a big concept in the industry right now about failing forward. Like, fine, it's okay to fail, but let's move the story forward by failing, and let's make sure that, like, when we fail, like, that becomes an awesome moment in and of itself. And I think this system has the capacity to do that. And the Six Gun and the Fury line have a big capacity to do that. And I think that's one of the exciting parts of this game.
I think a lot of that comes from the early days of D&D, where the design philosophy of a lot of these early modules were just vicious. I mean, like, if you surrender, they said if you surrendered, they're going to kill you. If you try to help a wounded foe, they're going to kill you. If you fail on this roll, you're dead. It was a lot of, save or die. And I do a lot of pulp stuff, and that makes it real hard because that mentality's gotten ingrained with people to go, hey guys, you can surrender and get captured, because that's how you get into the enemy base. You can't let the villain talk, because that's how he's going to explain the whole plot to you.
There's a thing that GMs can do with this particular system, by the way, is offer, okay, everybody, a bonus resolve to all of you if you go ahead and let yourself get captured here. All right, or you can offer bounties basically. If it's your call, but if everybody agrees to let this happen, then you're all going to get a bonus resolve. Then the other side of that coin is the GM can occasionally use adversity to pull off little sneaky bits too. You never should overuse that. But for example, at the end of yesterday's session, which, by the way, if you guys haven't had a chance to watch, I've posted the videos up for the ATF Denver Sentinels game up on my YouTube channel. And you will note, if you watch all the way through, at the very, very end, Cory's character, Black Rook, had managed to capture Line Cutter, who was a saboteur that had been plaguing not just them, but like multiple games that I'd run across multiple campaigns. This character had caused all kinds of issues and problems. She was not anywhere near as powerful as most of the people she was working with, but she was incredibly smart, very clever, and using all kinds of really, really cool stuff along those lines. But she kept getting away. Well, finally, Cory just went all in, like, I'm going to capture her no matter what. I saved one last adversity. And I mean, I did not spend it to negate what he did, but at the very end, we had the denouement moment where he's talking to her. He's like sitting outside her cell and talking to her while he's like taking notes or whatever, and interfacing with her. And he's like, so I want to know about your resources. And I hold up the adversity so everybody at the table can see. And she looks at him and says, fine, but it'll cost you. And we left it on that. So that was basically the implication that I spent my adversity to pull a plot point that I'm going to yank out later. That's going to be a thing for me and Cory and for the game overall. So there's like really interesting ways that you can play with stuff like that outside of just I'm spending to get away, or I'm spending to automatically negate everything. So that's a fun thing. Steve Peterson was going to join us. Steve, we're happy to have you in the chat anyway, and I'm sorry you weren't able to join us on the with the audio and stuff like that. But again, I'm incredibly grateful to Steve for his support. While he's here, I want to tell the thank you, Steve. Very much appreciate that. I want to go ahead and tell quickly the story. Myself, Michael Serbrook, and our friend Jonathan Kottbagen, who, by the way, Jonathan had never role-played before, like never played a tabletop role-playing game before. Prowlers Paragons was his first role-playing experience. He started out playing in, what was it? I think he was played in my Unending War campaign, actually. And he was really, really enjoying that. He's played a couple of things since then, but his first and his major experiences have been with P&PUE. So me and him and Michael road tripped out from Denver to Northern California, and it was a great road trip. We stopped off in Reno and all kinds of really cool places. But we ended up in Northern California, where we actually stayed at Steve Peterson's house in the general Bay Area, very near I want to say San Ramon. I'm drawing a blank, but it was like really near the ocean. It was really awesome. Steve had this fantastic backyard. Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, yes, Santa Cruz. Thank you very much, Santa Cruz. And we had this amazing backyard and this huge veranda kind of thing. And so we got him, Ray Greer, who was also one of the original Hero Games guys, Bruce Harlick, Foxbat, and the Marksman, and the editors and creators. And I had run for them before. And it was a really great time that I'd run for them before, but they got them, and then we got George McDonald, the original core designer of Champions, to join us, along with Marion Waldman and Richard Higbee and a couple of other, and both of Steve's sons. One of whom told me he'd never played Champions with his dad before, so I got to run a superhero game for him to actually sit down and play. It wasn't Champions, but they were all playing their original Champions characters. Steve was playing Goliath, Ray was playing Dove, Bruce was playing Marksman, George was playing the Golden Swordsman, which was one of his favorite characters, and so we had all these amazing players playing their first characters, and I did this big epic massive storyline that involved Dr. Destroyer, who'd been cast into Oblivion, had come back and was trying to control this very cosmic MacGuffin, maybe Infinity Gauntlet-esque kind of thing, trying to just destroy all of reality and reset it in his image kind of thing. And it was massive, and it was epic, and they had a fantastic time. And that was and then so their support of what we're trying to do has just been huge for me, because they know that I myself was very inspired by the work that I did with them. That was my first work in the games industry, was Hijack Enemies, Mutant File, Champions Universe, all that kind of stuff. So the full circle of this for me is very powerful. So Steve, your support on this has been incredible, and I'm actually really looking forward to working with you guys on some ideas going forward. I'd love to get your names back in front of superhero fans, and we've already talked about that. So you, Bruce, George, and Ray, to the degree that you guys want to, I'd love to get you guys out there doing some superhero stuff again. We have a question sitting in the queue. So can we see the finished book, and what does it look like? Well, you've seen a lot of the art that was already done, David, and obviously the Kickstarter is meant to help pay for more, and so that's going to be kind of the thing. And as far as when you're going to see the book, we said September is when we want to get the PDF out there. We want to show you a good final product, and that's what we're going to do. As far as the finished book, we're targeting September for PDFs, and later on for the print. I think that's how it's to be. And we can't promise anything early. If we get done early, yay for all of us. But one of the things that we wanted to be very cautious about is promising things. The Montgomery Scott, the Montgomery Scott method. Promise it at one point, come back and get it done early. Suddenly you look like a genius. But it's just one of the things that a lot of Kickstarters get themselves in trouble with is making promises they cannot keep and then having to go back and apologize. So we were conservative for a reason, and it'll be done when we say it's done and ready to go, because you deserve the best we can give you. I'm sure Len agrees with me on that.
100%. You can't see the book because we don't have it. I mean, it's written. But in terms of the final book, the reason we're doing this Kickstarter is to get what we hope is the best art we possibly can, the best layout, and put it all together. And I'm going to, as Sean will attest, drive everyone insane to make sure that it looks as hot and sexy as it possibly can. So I think I might be the James Cameron of game design. That's perfect. Can we do it again?
I have a puppy. Be nice to me. I have a dog. Please don't abuse me.
I have 2 dogs, both of whom might eat your dog. So look at her. She looks terrified. Aw.
It's so cute, baby.
Anyway, so yeah, we're working on it, and as soon as you'll have it as soon as to be, I'll be entirely frank, as soon as I'm happy with it. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm picky. I want things to look,
needs to be, because I'm too easily pleased.
I want things to look as good. It'll never be perfect. I'll always be unhappy with some stuff, and whatever money we collect, we're still limited by the money we collect. There's only so much we can put into it, but it is going to hopefully look as good as I can possibly get it to look. I'm a big believer in that art impacts the game. It impacts your comprehension of the game. The art and layout and format and the whole visual presentation of the product is as important as the words, if not more so. Not only for the success, but for your enjoyment of it. So
Len is frustrating as hell to work with on that point. I'm just going to say that because he is so exacting, because quality to him is absolutely a high level matter. He is, I'm admitting this to the world, he is forcing me to be a better president of a company and to not just try to push stuff out, but to make sure that we're putting good stuff out. Because if we want to be a next level company, if we want to get up to the Pinnacle and Green Ronin level of presentation and of success, we have to be like that. So
exactly,
Len and I drive each other insane because we love each other as brothers, and because we have complementary skill sets that also clash in some ways, but that is in the chrysalis of that conflict that we are producing better stuff. That is why these 5 years of getting this to where it is have been so good, because this is absolutely I've done some good stuff. This is the best game design work I've ever done in my life. Just being part of this game with Len. I'm incredibly excited about this. This is the game I love to run. People have been wanting me to do online gaming for a while. They've been wanting me to run games online. This I'll run. This I will do online gaming. This is where I will continue doing the online running game, because I love running this game for people in the online space. And I have not found a system yet. And as much as I love Savage Worlds, I would not. That was a hard game for me to run online. This I could run no problem, and it's because it's such a brilliant design. And he brings that same exactitude to the graphics. The graphic design team that we're working with are some of the best in this business, and he is pushing them to be better, beyond question. He is like flat out, that's not what I want. That's not going to be good enough. I need a better effort from you. And they came back with redoubled efforts, and that's what you're getting is that exactitude, that intense commitment to, if we're going to do this, let's freaking do it right. And so that's a part of what Len brings to the behind the scenes of this stuff. And so I'm really grateful for that. Yeah. As frustrating as it can be sometimes.
I have about 5 years. I think I have about 5 years in the RPG space. One of two things will happen. Either I'm going to become a mega millionaire because people love my stuff so much and everyone wants to work with me. Or after 5 years, no one will work with me. I'll become the Val Kilmer of RPG. It's going to be one of those two things. I don't know which way it's going to go.
But by the way, people are asking, yes, Raya is doing much better. Raya. I think she's a little frustrated with me for like squeezing her up past the table, but she does seem to be, knock on wood, she seems to be doing better. She had another little bout a couple of days ago, but she does seem to be doing a lot better now. So thank you for asking.
I wanted to volunteer something. We made a mention about GURPS, and I just wanted to sort of throw something out. Just you're going to be here for 24 hours. We need to fill some time. So having said that,
you take it away. I need to step away for a second.
Beautiful. So this is not at all related to P&P. So, but again, if it's going to be 24 hours talking about P&P, we're all going to get sick, including me. So just to sort of throw it out to you, GURPS Black Ops. If you like GURPS and don't have GURPS Black Ops, you've made a terrible, terrible mistake somewhere along the lines. So I'm almost certainly going to come out with some setting that's partially inspired by this. It is entirely possible that one of the groups in P&P is in part inspired by this in one way or another. So it's absolutely phenomenal. So if you're a fan of GURPS and you don't have GURPS Black Ops, find it, get it. It's fantastic.
Why is it good?
Secondly, Suppressed Transmissions 1 and 2. Basically a collection of Ken Haight's writings. Ken Haight is utterly, utterly, utterly brilliant, for those who don't know. And the fact of the matter is that the Suppressed Transmissions were the first time I really kind of stumbled across how brilliant this guy is. So if you don't have, I have no idea what you're talking about, Brett, none at all, because there is no such thing as an organization called Umbra. So in any case, but yeah, so those Suppressed Transmission things, for anyone who's a fan of GURPS and a fan of Ken Haight, I would definitely check them out. They're absolutely fantastic. Yes, I'm happy to pimp other people's stuff, and lots of it. So we'll talk about some other awesome superhero games, including Face Rip, including M&M, which is, I think, terrific. Villains and Vigilantes, always close to my heart. I actually just bought a new original 1980 V&V box set because my old box set was so demolished. So I have a brand sort of new shiny V&V game over there. It still makes me happy. So there you go. Anyway, look. Hello, Sean. Apparently he plays World of Warcraft and he transmogrified his helmet. I'll be back.
Oh man.
It's, yeah. Well, Len took off with the thing I was going to ask him. So I don't know.
Right here.
So what does Black Ops make? Why is it so good?
Well, the background setting is just neat as heck, and what it basically is it takes the X-Files trope from the 80s of the Men in Black, but basically you are the Men in Black, and what it basically is a government organization that is sent out to take care of supernatural threats, alien threats. So it takes that whole idea of the conspiracy and it says it's not only real, you're actually part of it. You're part of the conspiracy. You're part of the group that is out there trying to combat the alien threat or menace. It also creates characters that are absurdly overpowered, which in GURPS is saying something because it takes a lot of, so the characters are laughable. You know, they have, because this is GURPS, skill lists. It's like this much of the page is their skills. And it shows what you can really do with GURPS if you want to create really powerful characters and what you need to do it. But I think it was one of the first things that I saw that gave you the opportunity to be on the other side of the conspiracy. And it had that neat built-in sort of design mechanism of two-sided conflict, where your obvious conflict is, of course, the alien menace and the supernatural menace and so on that you have to face. But clearly the other conflict is with the group you're working with yourself. You know, because it's so secret, it's so, you know, it's like the classic spy trope of you know, you're probably your first and greatest threat is the agency you're working for, and then once you've got them under control, you can take care of all the other threats. Anyway, so that's why it does that in the Illuminati context, and it does it really well.
Nice.
No, stay. Hand me my phone. Len.
Sean.
Is the Nova iteration the best one I can have right now?
No.
Because we just realized we need to print out.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no worries. I'll get you one. You need it this second or shortly?
Like now.
All right, guys, then you're going to have to hang tight while somebody else needs to sing, dance, entertain, twerk, whatever makes you happy while I get this done.
Fair enough.
I'm going off the air for a moment. Au revoir.
Let me slide it in.
I'm not allowed to twerk.
I am legally prescribed from twerking. So, hey,
I don't think the world can handle your twerking anyway.
We need because we just realized since we are doing a character creation session, we want to have the absolute latest version as available as a physical printout for people to do character creation.
True.
That's why I needed to ping Len about that so he could send me it before we could send lovely, wonderful Carinn off to go do a printout for us. So where's the hat? What do you mean the hat? The hat's right here.
That's when you were replaced momentarily.
So Cory was pretending to be me. All right. So, Brett and Sean and a few others have been going on and on about my dice. I appreciate the concern for my horrible dice as a GM. I truly do. The problem is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what set of dice I'm rolling. No one's dice will be kind to me.
Thank God. I mean,
it's just how it is.
Sean, you need bat dice.
No,
I don't know. I don't know. Crimson Claw did a number to Vigilant last night.
Yeah, there are. Here's the thing. My dice are dice, right? I don't know why they tend to roll so horribly as a GM. But every once in a while they'll step up and go, now here's the drama point. Ow, look at that pain. But Donovan's dice, on the other hand, Donovan's dice are demonic. My office and bedroom faces our backyard, and I knew there was a problem when I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I saw him out there with a brown robe and some candles. And there was a cauldron with the dice, and then I saw something floating over.
That was his Jedi cosplay.
Okay, his Jedi cosplay. No, something evil and dark and demonic was hovering over the cauldron and saying, yes, we will embody the. And I was like, okay, I may have a problem. So, I'm just saying. So David Parker was asking, please do character creation slowly, as last time you did it too fast. Yes. David, as a matter of fact, that is the inspiration for what we are going to be doing here in a little bit. Is we're actually going to go through a session 0 / character creation kind of thing, and I'm going to very, very avidly narrate.
Mock the room.
I mock the there's
you mock the room.
Well, so he's wearing that, right? He's wearing that. But then I said there was the candles and there was like this dark shadow thing with red eyes hovering. I mean, something was going on with those dice. That's all I'm saying.
His name is Wilbur. Come on, at least be nice.
Steve Peterson, thank you very much for joining us. And yes, come back in later. And hopefully your audio, you'll get your audio to work better for the next one because we'd love to have you come on and actually chat with us with talking about looking at the original Hero System Designs and Champions and its influence on this game and some other stuff along those lines. So Dale was just saying about doing that with skills in Hero System 2.
The skill list like this,
The talent system is very tight. And for those who want to be architects, I've been saying this all along, those who want to be architects and engineers can, because we did put stuff in there for you to play with to be the architect and the engineer. Expertise is absolutely one of those things, right? You can have a high academics and you're good to go. You can have a high science or high technology and you're good to go as an expert. But if there's something you really want to be fantastic at, you want to get down and crunch and be much more detail oriented about, I'm really good at archaeology. you know, or I'm really good at cybernetics. You just use the expertise ability for that. You know, it's you know, that is a really pretty way to do that. You know, there's simple, straightforward character builds. A lot of my characters are much more complex too. They don't fit on the nice P&P promo character sheets because I have power lists a mile long because I like to go in here with all the different variations and things that I can play with and do combo characters. Like one of my favorite characters I've ever done called Paladin, Battlesuit Guy. He's like Reed Richards meets Tony Stark in terms of he's a scientist and an engineer with a cool battle suit. So I need training area stuff. He's cybernetically enhanced plus the battle suit. You know, it's just there's a lot going on with that character. So, and I am an architect and engineer, and I can still play with those ideas with this system. But somebody else can come in and go, super strong, armor, leap, shockwave, rawr, let's go. You know, that's and still have plenty of points left over to say, well, I'll go ahead and buy myself like 5 resolve just because I didn't need any more points. And that character works incredibly well and is awesome. Scott's character, Myrmidon, he's got a lot more going on than that because he's an immortal and stuff like that. But his base power set's pretty much I'm strong and I'm tough. And he was kicking ass and taking names yesterday. So there's a lot of that kind of thing going on.
Compared to my first character in the game, which was the Swiss Army Psychic.
Yep. So Richard Brown asks, is base building in the core rules? Nope, base building is right there. In fact, today, Donnie Arnold, one of our big supporters, was talking about how he loves how easy and fun the base building system is. So there's an entire rule set for building your own custom vehicles, and the rules for vehicles allow you to use the vehicle in gameplay without all the weird complexities that some other games have trying to integrate vehicles into standard tactical gameplay. Yesterday, Bastion was flying around in the Bulwark, which was basically their Quinjet, and he was doing all kinds of awesome stuff. In fact, as he and Grenadier and Black Rook were all using the Bulwark to do actions in the game beautifully, and I could target the Bulwark just as easily as I could target a hero. So the vehicle rules integrate beautifully. I've also run games where they've been in space, right? And they're about aboard what's called the Heart of Katara, and you've got one of the superheroes flying the Heart of Katara, and another one is you manning the weapon system, and then other heroes have airlocked out and are flying around in space and attacking enemy fighters. And meanwhile, Carinn's character Digital Lotus is flying out to basically make friends with the enemy battle cruiser because she's a technopath. So she literally awoke the AI of the battle cruiser and made friends with it, and it became their floating base in space for a while. So
it was just floating out there, just petting the hull.
Yep. During the major space battle, she's out there petting the hull and
encouraging it to rid itself of the infestation of organics.
Which it did, by the way.
Oh,
it was gross.
I mean, hi.
So yeah, she did that. So vehicle rules integrate. The base rules are awesome. People can just spend some points and put all kinds of cool stuff to construct their bases. That is all in the core rules. Yes.
Where is the jump drive?
It's sitting right here. I'm waiting for Len to send me the thing.
Awesome, thank you.
Purple.
So we are just waiting on Len to send me.
So really, it's all because of Len.
It is in fact all because of Len,
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
who is offline right now. So Brett is off to go get his badge. He'll be back for gaming later. Yes, the gaming will be a little bit later on this evening for the gaming that all of you guys can potentially join in on. That will be later this evening. Yes, so Len just typed in, let's be clear, the original vehicle rules were garbage. It's better because Sean's play testing. Well, I am in fact very proud of that, and I'll do a little knuckle polishing on that. And I also have to thank you. I have to thank my Storm Knights crew: Ross Watson, Ed Doolittle, Carinn Seabolt, Bill and Tammy Keys. Let's see, who else was there at that time for that? Those guys definitely. I don't remember who else was. Oh, and Cal Ringerback playing the Saint. He's the one who's flying around as the angel with his glowing holy sword slashing through enemy fighters. It was such a cool scene. So yes, the vehicle rules, they were cool before actually. They weren't garbage. They were pretty cool, but we did expand them to make them work a little bit better for full integration. So yes, Richard, all of the vehicle rules are there. All of the base building rules are there. Doing stuff with gear, some of the basic rules for playing with gear is all there. It is an incredibly complete game. The disaster rules are in there, dealing with hazards, dealing with different energy types and things that can happen. game master advice, story creation advice for superhero playing. The Prowlers Paragons Ultimate Edition book is 5 years of intense playtest, fantastic design, back and forth. It is an absolute, total, complete book. I will go so far as to say that this book will serve you exactly as well as the Big Blue 4th edition Champions book did. It has absolutely everything you need, including a set of heroes and villains to play with, monsters and beasts, everything you need in one book to set up and run your own superhero campaign. There's no, okay, I'm going to need this supplement, because all the supplemental stuff will be like extra layers of things towards a certain type of whatever. So like, for example, the Kaze 5 setting that Michael Serbook is planning is going to be a book where if you really want to delve more into like the anime punk style of play.
That answers the question. That answers the question.
Which question?
That's queued up.
Oh.
I'm answering the question right now.
Oh, I'm answering. Okay, sorry. From Fizzle Australia, say anime superheroes or something like that, anime world. So yeah, actually, I didn't even realize. Thank you, Cory, for catching that. So Kaze 5 will do anime punk, but Brett Baker, actually, one of the players from yesterday's game in the ATF, is wanting to do a more straightforward anime setting. So his book would, bring out those elements and share, So for example, when we get into the narrating what happens when you roll really well on the dice in a traditional superhero game, you're probably not going to, it's probably not going to be appropriate for you to run across the stream of bullets that are being fired at you. But if you were doing a feng shui style setting, or you were doing a more anime style setting, then you would put that in those rules as like, okay, at this level, you can describe something as insane as I'm running up the stream of bullets that are being fired at me. So it comes down to a genre narration explanation as much as anything else. Modern Gods, like I said, is going to layer in a couple extra things about having specific origins that make a setting particularly stand out, like being an ageless versus an agent versus a pinnacle human. That setting is defined by those ideas, so I'm going to put in some extra things for that. And each of the setting books potentially can do that. But they will be layers of additional cool stuff to play with. They will never, ever be essentials. Everything you need to set up and run your own game is sitting right in that core book. And I mean, all of the bits too. So there it is. So what we're hoping for is about 12, maybe 12. It's probably looking closer to 12:30.
Okay, you should check for that book. Len says he sent it.
Oh, I missed. Oh, I was over in the QA section. Thank you, Dale, for. So Dale, I appreciate you deciding to come in and kind of help co-hosting today. Like I said, I wanted you to get on anyway to talk about your studio and anything like that.
I appreciate that.
Having you join in and be a part of stuff. So I don't multitask well. So y'all talk amongst yourself for a minute while I do this stuff.
That is no problem. So.
So to set some expectations as to what's going to be going on.
Yep.
Jennifer and I had been discussing over the last couple days a couple of ideas that I had for running a game. This is probably more of a concept for a campaign rather than a particular setting. And so basically what we're looking at is doing sort of a concept for teenage or young adult type scenario where suddenly these people are imbued with incredible power. So what do they do with that? And if you're thinking, my original concept, Gen 13, Generation X, Teen Titans, New Mutants, all of those types of books where they're very young, but they don't really know what to do with their powers yet. That's the concept we're going for today's session. And so we're going to build characters at a slightly less powerful build level so that we can, let them characters themselves kind of grow into what is it they're actually doing with those powers. Mm-hmm. How do they explore gaining that power? And it's an experiment in self-exploration as well as external exploration of how do they fit into the world. And so that's sort of the theme and session of what we're looking to build once we get this up and running.
There you go. Even the original 5 X-Men back in the 60s had that vibe. So.
So to be clear, the reason why they're doing this is because originally we were going to have Ed Doolittle running his game for us today. It was the regular scheduled day. So he was going to be running his Shadow Protectorate campaign for us. The problem is Strep Throat stepped in and said, no, we don't want to have that happen. So that is the unfortunate there.
We're also demonstrating the contrast between the normal 4-color scenario of whatever.
Jennifer actually is trying to explain something, but she's being very quiet about it. Would you please start over?
Whatever. One of the other things about the game that Cory and I are going to run today that we want to explore is that it's a different take on what, for example, Sean will frequently run and what he has run in a lot of the demos so far, which is the 4-color heroes. Everybody's already well aware of what's going on and how cool they are and how it's their job to save the world. And they've already kind of been through that process. What happens when you haven't figured that out yet? I can do all this cool stuff. What does that mean? And what implications can follow that as a person and as a member of society? So we wanted to demonstrate a couple of different things. A, what happens when somebody besides the creators runs a game that doesn't know the game as well as the creators, and that's okay? What happens when they, we want to demonstrate that there's a lot more versatility in this system than what may have been previously demonstrated through the other demos thus far.
Well, Len, they're not going to ruin everything.
Ruin other things. Oh, I mean.
Okay, one of the reasons that Len has had us all as playtesters is he's looked at people like David Shinefeld and like Jonathan Santini and like Scott Crosson and
yep, that's true.
And see how it goes. Get better. And if someone who is as adverse to super crunchy as I am can run a game, and someone who is likes the crunch can run the game, again, we're showing the versatility and the adaptability of the system as well.
Well, it's crunchy when it needs to be, and it's not crunchy when it doesn't need to be.
Exactly so.
I can point to about a half dozen game systems that are crunchy when they don't need to be, and really, really loosey-goosey when they need to be crunchy, like combat, where you're going,
stuff happens.
Things happen. Let's get back to the detailed persuasion rolls.
So, just as a explanation of what the hell's taking me so long, this is a Logitech USB receiver. It is not, in fact, a thumb drive.
There you go.
Carry on.
It's okay, you're pretty.
Oops.
I just literally am sitting here going, why will it not load to the not thumb drive? Because of
But yeah, this rule set, you can
Narf.
You can do a lot with it.
I found my other one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? I was actually doing some legitimate plugging of the system and stuff.
Sorry, continue.
Well, I'm done now.
Yeah.
It was Scott's turn.
I was gonna say you can do a lot with it. You can do a lot of different stuff with it, and you're not just restricted to the 4-color super genre.
Such as?
Well, I've been proposing the idea for doing something with pulp.
Right.
Doing something with a setting that's set from the 1890s to the 1980s. Essentially, the future that everybody was promised in the turn of the 20th century, and how that future would come about. But you could do all sorts of cool things. You could do, Pulp's real easy. Golden Age supers, which is very different than what most people think of as regular supers, because the Golden Age, people were still trying to throw things against the wall and figure out what stuck.
Can I borrow your keys again?
Where you get characters that were raised by vultures in Mongolia so they can fly.
What the even?
The Black Vulture.
Scott's talking. Why are you
Who's
surprised?
a Golden Age superhero. He's the first superhero that could fly. He got his flight powers because he was raised by vultures in Mongolia. So he took the name Black Condor.
Like you do.
Like you do. So you can fly.
It's Crosson.
Hey, that's how logic worked back then.
The Jim Garrett, the original Flash, got his superpowers from hard water.
True story. The same hard water that I have to clean out of bathrooms at my job.
That may give you superpowers, sir.
Yep.
See, there you go. There's hope.
But you could very easily do a Golden Age World War II setting where people are still trying to figure out the whole supers thing. And that's a great place to put in these gonzo concepts.
Right.
Because it totally fits the genre. Plus, just look at the pulp age. There were so many.
Look at the bones, man!
Welcome back, Len.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Kubar.
I mean, you had to.
You totally missed the one time I was on screen. It's done now.
No, I didn't. I've been watching the whole time.
Yep.
Nice
True story.
How
do you think he's been texting us?
Exactly. So I noticed that we're talking about pulp and high adventure, and within the context of that, I'm a very big believer in the whole on the shoulders of giants. I'm a very big believer in, if you like RPGs, you like a lot of RPGs. Maybe not everybody's that way, but I certainly am. And I want to, and part of this, I want to talk about not just P&P. I know this is about P&P, but I want to talk about some other fantastic games. So, so in connection with that, if you are a fan of pulp and the pulp genre and pulp adventure, I actually have 2 games that, in addition to P&P, you might want to look at. They were both games that inspired P&P, one more so, one less so, but I strongly suspect that every single game I own and every single game I've read has influenced my design in one way or another, small or large. So in that regard, let's talk about 2 games that real quickly that influenced P&P and that are pulpy if you're interested. And the first one, since we're talking about retro sci-fi, Rocket Age. If you're interested in the idea of retro sci-fi, it's a terrific game. It uses the same game system as the Doctor Who role-playing game, which it has a very interesting sort of conceit, which works for Doctor Who. And I think it works for this as well. Maybe not as well for this genre, but basically it's a case where talkers go before actors and actors go before fighters. I don't have the full spread here, but long and short is if you want to say something, if you want to talk to somebody. So it encourages talking and conversation and RP resolution before anything else. And then if you're going to take some kind of action that isn't fighting, you go next. And then finally, we get to the point of where the combat takes place. So if you're fighting, that's the last option, and you actually you have to wait for everybody else who's not fighting to go. It's an interesting, and it's a simple game. Conceptually, it's probably at about the same complexity level as P&P. So if you like retro sci-fi, Rocket Age, I would highly recommend it. And then secondly, for pulp, and you have to give me 1 second here.
Oh, yes.
I cannot say enough about Hollow Earth Expedition. I cannot say enough about this game. I have everything that was ever, I think, released for this game. I have all the dice. I have. I'm a huge fan of this game. This is the game that kind of reawakened my interest in pulp. This is one of the games that reawakened my interest in role-playing after I'd been away from it for a while. It was Kurt Weigel on Game Geeks, his talking about the game that got me interested in it. And this game definitely influenced some of the design choices in P&P, and I can't say enough about it, and the designers are terrific folks. So if you don't own everything from Hollow Earth Expedition, go buy it now because it's absolutely fantastic, especially if you're a fan of pulp.
Hollow Earth Expedition is one of the best games to have come out of the early aughts. It is the early 21st century is probably one of the best games that have come out in the last 20 years that nobody plays, sadly.
And it's a fantastic game. And for anyone who likes the idea of how flaws work, where, you know, you decide if it affects you badly, and if it does, you earn resolve for it. That was definitely inspired by the mechanics of Hollow Earth. It's not the only one, but it was certainly one of the influences on it. So it's just a terrific game, and I highly recommend everyone go out and buy it and play it. It's a lot of fun. I played it at Gen Con with one of the designers. Again, cannot possibly say enough about the designers or the game itself. If you like pulp, definitely check it out. And again, humorously enough, on the complexity level, it's probably about the same as P&PUE. Maybe a half a hair, half a tick more complex, maybe. But that's about that.
Yeah, it's, I love the flaw, how the flaw mechanic works, because it again brings that player agency back into the system, that allows for, again, that failing forward concept of, hey, I got this flaw that is going to earn me some cool, you know, mechanical benefit, but it's also going to move the story forward in such an interesting way that I think makes the game more interesting.
I'm glad you like that. And in connection with that, I know there's some folks, including some game designers, who I'm a rabid fan of. You can't tell I'm a rabid fan of a lot of games and a lot of game designers. But there are some game designers who I'm a rabid fan of who aren't a fan of that kind of system. There's feeling on it, and some folks have this feeling on it too, where if you have to do any thinking about the game that isn't thinking like your character, it breaks immersion, and you're thinking more like an author or a comic book writer than you are thinking like your character, and they don't like that. They want all your thoughts and decisions to be based on what would my character do in this moment. And choosing to have a flaw affect you in a moment because it's dramatically appropriate isn't immersive at all. Now, again, I keep saying this and I just don't want to get into it. At some point, if we want to, we can. I would happily debate the question of immersiveness regarding this because there's a lot of elements of an RPG game that are not immersive, like the fact that you're sitting around a table, the fact that you're rolling dice, the fact that you have stats. And there's so many non-immersive elements of the game that we are okay with. And even in terms of your thought process,
I will always argue with those people that say, if you want an immersive experience, go LARP. And then they look at me quizzically.
Or even if you really love immersion and you hate the break of immersion that creates, I'm assuming you don't have your character sheet in front of you, right? You don't know what your stats are. You know, you're playing like the old Gary Gygax D&D where you don't even have your character sheet in front of you. The GM has all the sheets. The GM is rolling for you. The GM rolls for damage. And they're just telling you, right? That's how you play? Of course it's not how you play. No. So there's a lot of things that you are aware of beyond just what your character sees in the world. So we can debate that back and forth, and that's fine. And there may not be a right answer. But let me just say, for people who feel that way and feel that you making your own decision about your flaws breaks immersion, let your GM do it. The game won't fall apart if it's just the GM who decides. In fact, there's a bunch of little tips that no one has seen that are going to sort of pop in the rules here and there. And one of the little tips is that if you don't like that sort of immersion-breaking element of your flaws, great. Let the GM do it.
Right.
Let the GM decide when your flaw comes into play. You're not in control of it, just like you're not in the real world. And when that happens, you gain a resolve. And the GM, who is the storyteller or the sort of architect of the tale or whatever you want to call it in a non-railroady sense, can do it. So you can totally play the game taking that element out of it if you feel it breaks your immersion. It won't break the game at all.
Absolutely.
However, I like using it in game as a player due to the fact that it allows me to have those human moments where, hey, I want to bring this element into the game, and it's not a positive element for my character, but it's an element that feeds the drama and feeds the storytelling.
Exactly.
I think nowadays most folks feel that way. I think what I'm describing is maybe a bit more of an old school sort of approach, but there are people who feel that way. Absolutely. Most of them are probably my age, but they're there.
I've had the pleasure to experience a few other systems such as Powered by the Apocalypse, where I think if people are because I feel like there's a lot more role play purist